After tolerating the trickery of the traitorous Terra, we obtain the ability to use Waterfall in the overworld. We need to descend the waterfall of Celestinine Cascade to help Titania and Amaria. Like we're going to go do story progression first, we've got exploring to do. Starting from the southern end of Celestinine Mountain, I round the corner to the right and descend this waterfall first. Go down the stairs to the south and swim west to get out of the water here for a PP up. Go down the waterfall in the south, only to find out that the last overworld HM still impedes us. We'll need rock climb to go down this wall, which actually leads back to the Adventurine Woods and unlocks this strength puzzle. Head back to the previous cavern and now dive into the pool to the north. Scrounge around in the deep water, then surface to the west. This brings you into a cavern with an ice sliding puzzle and a TM prize. The solution to this is to go down from the stairs, right up, left down, left up, right down, right up, left up, which awards you low sweep. Go all the way back to the first waterfall you plummeted down, and then get on the ice to the left. Go over to Citrine Mountain first, and descend the vertical water. Hey, it's one of those strength puzzles again. Only this time, we can actually solve it. Push the boulder left here, then go back up the waterfall and slide south. When you walk to the left, you'll encounter a static Pokemon. And suddenly, you may remember, this Skuntank, it's Corey's. All this time later, we encounter the fourth of Corey's released Pokemon, but even though you possess his ring still, Skuntank doesn't just submit. He wants proof of your ability. You need to catch him manually, but that's no different than usual. Behind the skunk is an item called a silver card. What a suspicious item. What does it do? Nothing you can access now. But wait one episode. Go all the way north from here now to the ladder, surf towards another wall of water. Get out onto land before going up another one to walk over here and obtain a prism scale. The Milotic item, huh? Then we'll need to start figuring out where a Feebas is. Just wait a little bit. Go up 2 more waterfalls to be on the 3rd floor of Citrine, pick up some items, and then notice yet another static encounter. No sooner had we met the 4th of Corey's Pokemon, we find the 5th, Marini. This one is less resistant than its skunk teammate, and joins you without battling. Up the steps nearby are several items, most valuable of which are the Grass Memory and the TM for Gyro Ball. Leave Citrine to return to Celestinine and head up the next waterfall in the north. Your item finder will coax you to the right, which lets you spot something up above. A Sneasel. We'll find a way up there later. For now, go over to this slider puzzle and after crossing it, find a strength boulder to shove and open a new way. We reach that junction by going up the next water wall and to the left, diving deep again. Head through an underwater trench to then reach another skating rink with 2 directions to pick from. Go to the right first and descend. Skate on more ice to the left and find several pools and small falls. When you reach the top, it will look like a dead end with no reward. But if you wait long enough, then you'll witness a frolicking Totodile leaping from the water. Carefully watch for its leap, then move under it to click on it before it submerges again, then catch yet another starter. After this, head back to the previous ice and access the upper stairs, starting from the lower stairs and going left down right up right, down left up. More ice to skate on, which is traversed by starting on the right side of the stairs in front of the ice. Dive, swim through a tunnel, surface, fall down some water, and go to the right to pick up a Razor Fang and the TM for Workup. Now go back to that left-right junction on the ice and go to the left now. You'll submerge again and see a door, but before that, go through this seaweed to find a deep sea tooth. That's one branch of Clampearl. Now go through the door into a larger underwater cavern. Once you swim over to the right, you'll be treated to a new Z crystal, Snorlium Z. After this, swimming south, you'll probably find nothing. Unless you were lucky enough to be swimming here on a Friday. In that case, your reward is this wild Lapras to catch. Of course, by doing this, you are invariably going to see the field effect we skipped last time. Now's probably the best time to explain the field effect underwater. It's been a full 10 episodes since we discussed the first 2 water-based field effects, and in this episode, we are going to talk about the other 2. Yes, other 2. But that's getting too far ahead. Let's go underwater. So now you're submerged beneath the waves. What has changed from water surface? Well, first, the Pokemon who were slower on water surface are now even slower, 50% of their speed. Like before, water types and swift swimmers are exempt, but Surge Surfer now gave way to Steel Worker, just to make Delmies happy. Electric moves are doubly strong and never miss. Oh, look, Zap Cannon, isn't that nice? Water moves get a 50% boost like above, and physical moves that are not water type lose 50% of their power, unless they are from a Delmies. Speaking of water moves, they now hit water types neutrally. This is a big change, and it's bound to trip you up. Interestingly, the usefulness of fire and ground swap on this field from on the surface. Now, fire moves always fail, and ground moves work again, while gaining a secondary water type, meaning fire is now offensively and defensively massacred on this field, as you'd so expect. An interesting thing about underwater is that you cannot generate weather or other fields on it. It is underwater and it is going to stay that way until you surface. You can surface by using these moves and return to the depths by using these moves. As well, Pokemon that are weak to water will take damage each turn unless they have Magic Guard or Swift Swim. If they are weak, like being a fire type, then they will lose 1/4 of their max HP, and if they are doubly weak, then they will lose 1/2. Finally, if your name is Camerupt or Magcargo, and you have Magma Armor or Flame Body, then don't even show up, because this damage is doubled so they will die immediately. These abilities are activated. Man, so Wishy-Washy is now a beast at all times. Hydration and Water Compaction are activated at the end of each turn. Dry Skin and Water Absorb get built-in leftovers again. Water Veil will heal statuses like on the surface. Water Pulse, yes, just that one move, gets a 50% boost on top of the static water boost, meaning it has 135 base power. Another bone for Delmies, Anchor Shot gets double power. Like on water surface, Dive is executed in one turn. Whirlpool additionally confuses the target and inflicts 1/6 of the target's max HP as damage each turn. Aqua Ring now restores 1/8 of the bearer's max HP each turn. Nature Power is Water Pulse. Camo is Water. Secret Power may lower attack by 1 stage. Using an Elemental Seed will raise speed by 1 stage and apply Soak to the user, meaning they will become pure Water type. The soaking does not happen to Silvalees and Arceuses. So unlike water surface, which hampered speed and ground attacks, underwater really increases the pressure, leaving anything that isn't a water type at a distinct disadvantage. The big issues are the loss of speed and physical attack strength. That's going to hurt a lot of Pokemon while making water Pokemon extremely hard to approach. The complete shutdown of fire types while electric types get a surprise boost in the form of double power Thunder and Zap Cannon never missing leaves a field with many mines to avoid. Underwater doesn't reach the heights of hostility like the killing fields do, but it's definitely a cut above the common fields you'll see. What also needs to be discussed is the volatility of what I call the water constellation. However, that's something we can save for later in the episode, when we can talk about it in its entirety. Depth 7. Difficulty 6. After you catch the Lapras, pick up this water stone. There's another cave in the southwest of the cavern, through which you can item find your way to another link stone. Just beyond that, you'll get your hands on your second silver item ball today, a Bombasite. That's all to do here in this section past the Ice Junction. You'll come back to this point and may become worried that the strength puzzle is reset. Don't worry, you can just push these boulders upstairs. Next, jump into the water and encounter this shiny Wailmer. Okay, maybe not all of you will, but swimming around these mountains long enough, at least some of you will. Now paddle just over to the right and jump onto land here. Walk down the stairs and we'll meet with the Sneasel. However, it's too busy with this rock for you. Got time for me now? Catch the Ice Weasel. Get back in the water and climb yet another waterfall, which you'll soon recognize brings you back to the river we've traversed for several episodes. In that case, we want to head south to that dive point from last episode that led us to this cavern with the Avalugg Pulse readout. Now we can ascend this H2O fall and come up to a pretty daunting looking ice puzzle. This is the Ice Strength Puzzle. In the path of the ice patches are strength boulders, which you need to push in specific directions to open the correct route to the northern side of the room. However, it isn't nearly as bad as it looks. The trick is to look for the directions where you can push the boulder into a dead end. Start with the lowest path, which slides to the right a screen length into a boulder, which you push into an otherwise useless nook. Skate back to the left, then go up immediately to do the same to this rock. From the middle path, keep going until you bump another boulder up into this space. Return to the left, then take the top path all the way to the right, come up here, and nudge this stone out of the way. Make a half circle to the bottom of the room now, and stumble your way to the top, and there you go, a nugget and large candy. What, that's it? No, there's also this shiny Bleasel. Holy shit, 2 shinies so close together? Shout out to Blue Bleasel instead of pale sickly yellow Bleasel. There was also a waterfall to climb here, which is where the real treasure trove is. Get out of the water and obtain, from left to right, a dragon scale, a timid mint, the TM for Psyshock, an XL candy, and a water memory, along with several other minor items. However, that isn't the grand prize. There's one more thing to get, but it's not something you can see. It's only something you can fish. Feebas. There we are, a Feebas and Prism scale all at once. This completes our exploration of Celestinine Mountain, and with Citrine done for the moment, let's now tackle Ametrine Mountain. There's only one waterfall to scale, this one. As soon as you do, head to the right to pick up a Never Melt ice. Now you'll be able to cross the ice vertically that you saw when we first came to Chalcedon and Shinies Feel. 3 shinies in an hour. Welcome to the power of the shiny charm. This is sort of the reason I don't catch every Pokemon I see as I come through an area, because they'll probably just roll shiny and I'll have to catch them anyway. But continuing on, we come up to another ice rink, but this one is more devious than the rest. If you screw up and slide south, you fall down to a disconnected section of the mountain and have to go all the way back around again. The solution is to start here and slide south into this rock, then left and up. We can then swim up the vertical water once more and be in this cave with a rink right in front of Ametrine City. This puzzle increases the meanness another notch. Now you can't even see where you are supposed to go, and if you fail, it'll take you even longer to try again. Of course, unless you save and reset like everyone would. But let me give you the solution real quick. Jump out of the water to stand on this tile, then slide south down the ledge and go right. All of this just to be blockaded once more by rock climb. Yeah, I could have waited until later to show this puzzle when it was actually solvable, but I didn't want to be disappointed alone. Now you're all disappointed too. Anyway, this completes our trek through the mountains and all of its waterfalls. That leaves only one more. The one that may or may not have claimed lives. But let's delay the inevitable a bit longer with the news. Gardevoir starts up by exclaiming how, thanks to the city center and Adrian, Reborn City is more alive than it's been in a long time. She tells how the people of the city have banded together and have done so much to fix the structures of the city and even begin beautifying them. It sounds like a dream, until Gardevoir invokes that one word that will always describe Reborn's atmosphere. In her interview, the Pokemon speaks with Sarah, who is surprised by her appearance and being interviewed. At Gardevoir's prompting, she says that, though she has some remorse for how her life changed after having her son, she wouldn't change that decision. But then Gardevoir asks Sarah how she feels about the reports that said son Bennett has joined Team Meteor. She feels like stopping the interview and finding Bennett. Now. Of course, next is Arclight's rundown, where he talks about gym leaders and their teams, and some tips about how to fight them. Tips maybe about what their ace is, or what field effects they use. Tips about Ciel, who he introduces and goes on to describe her beautiful performances. And that's it. Arclight, you forgot to talk about the battle! Again! Oh, whatever. It's not like Ciel's fight will be the centerpiece of this episode. Oh my god, I've already reached one of them. Taking place in this very room. Soon. Never mind. Let's pretend instead that I'm about to descend the waterfall where the two gym leaders dove for the first time ever, back in 2016. My mind is racing with the possibilities of what's down there, and hoping that Amaria is still alive. I had never played a new episode to this point, so when I am finally able to descend, seeing a brand new area and hearing a brand new track is an exciting feeling. The track that beats into my ears for the first time, taking me into the future as I join the ranks of the other patient Reborn fans, is Olivine Lighthouse from Gold and Silver, remixed by GlitchX City and slightly slowed down by Ame. This was always a big moment for me personally. I had to play the entire game up to this point twice to get here, thanks to that hard drive failure. I plan to keep with this second file all the way to the end. Second file, huh. Something else that tickled me when I reached the bottom into a place called the Water Treatment Center was what Titania asked me. I don't know what my luck is that the first time I played this game and got stopped by development progress was right before I could get down here, so that I could tell Titania she's been down here for 2 years. Jumping onto the floor in front of her, Titania brings us up to speed. As if bad occurrences were in short supply, Team Meteor has control of this plant and have taken Amaria. Titania shows us that she had begun taking control of the situation by utterly murdering any grunts who came from the southern door until they locked it. She then wonders if I have a key or something to do anything more than she could, venomously adding how I do have a knack for going through objects that don't belong to me. Hardy was right. You are a murder waiting to happen. Speaking of murder, we are suddenly joined by 2 cultists? Huh? Titania immediately draws her weapon, Aegis Slash. Do not get me started on that infernal Pokemon. I have some more time before I have to think about it again. One of the meteors says that a new commander has arrived, who told these 2 to let us into the plants. They won't tell us why they got these orders. And then Titania kills the closer grunt. And escalated. Titania says she knows this is a trap, and proceeds anyway. We follow after her to discover another body at the end of her Pokemon's blade, as she says she will kill anyone who gets between her and Amaria. She says she'd love to tell me to fuck off, but she can't right now. She only has Aegis Slash, so she says she'll be using me to get through this place. Using me like to get to that machine across the gross brown water by jumping onto the trash piles, since she's not sure she won't just plunge into the water herself. When we jump across and activate the machine, the water is drained from the room, at which Titania presses on without us. Yeah, you go on ahead. I have a field effect description to do. After all, if you go to the right where Titania went, and head down, you can find this very hidden field effect readout ball. Then turn around and encounter a Pokemon on that same field effect. And so we come to the last member of the water constellation in the field effect galaxy. Let's delve deep. Okay, let's tread very carefully on Murkwater Surface. Murkwater Surface has the distinction of not only being the last water-based field, but also the last poison-based field. A putrid marriage of the 2 archetypes. You could have seen Murkwater sooner if you were using poison types. You'd have to use Acid Downpour, which you can't use for a while longer, or Sludge Wave twice. If you do this on Water Surface, you get Murkwater Surface. You can also do this on Underwater, which has the added effect of making every non-poison, non-steel type faint, just like when the roof collapses on Cave Field. Unless you did that very specific thing in the short time you've been able to surf, this is the first time you'll encounter the tainted water. So what happens while you tread the filthy grime? First, grounded Pokemon lose 25% of their speed unless they are water type or have Surge Surfer or Swift Swim. Water type moves gain 50% power and a poison secondary type. Poison moves also increase in power by 50%. Electric moves used against grounded Pokemon will gain 30% power. Ground type moves including Sand Attack will always fail. Murkwater is also one of those hostile fields that hurts to even exist in. If it is not poison or steel type, a Pokemon will take a base 1/8 of their max HP and damage every turn, which scales based on their weakness to poison. This means a Golurk would take 1/32nd, while a Shiinotic takes 1/2. Pokemon with these abilities are immune to this damage, while Pokemon with these abilities take double damage. Worse yet, don't under any circumstances use Dive. If you do, you take quadruple damage while underwater. Gooey lowers speed by 2 stages on activation. Damage caused by liquid ooze is doubled, so just don't use HP draining moves. Stench activates its flinch chance twice as much, at 20% odds. These abilities are all activated, as per the usual poison and water field shtick. Water compaction is activated at the end of each turn. Dry skin and water absorb will restore 1/8 of the bearer's max HP per turn if it is both on the ground and a poison type. How specific. Poison heal will additionally restore 1/8 max HP each turn, again if the Pokemon is on the ground. These 4 moves gain 50% power, and Smackdown gains a poison secondary type. These 4 moves also gain 50% power, and not only gain poison as a secondary type, their primary type changes to water. These aren't the strongest moves around, but they will be the only ground moves that will work in this place. Acid Armor will boost defense by 3 stages, just about the most expected thing on this field. Sludge Wave gains water as a secondary type. Venoshock becomes base 130 power like the target is poisoned regardless if it actually is. Venom Drench will be applied, again regardless of target status. Spikes and Toxic Spikes can't exist here. Shore Up will activate Water Compaction again. Man, how many places just feed Palisand? Nature Power becomes Sludge Wave. Camo is Poison. Colored me surprised. Secret Power may... Does anyone actually use Secret Power? If you do, then you can guess what it can do here. An Elemental Seed will raise speed by 1 stage and apply an Aqua Ring, but also poison the user. Good if used by a poison type. Now, what if you don't like treading this disgusting filth? Well, use Whirlpool and it will become Water Surface. Or use one of these moves to change it to Icy Field. That's what we're looking at in this water treatment plant. Now, even though this seems like a vicious field, which it is, there's one thing about it that's merciful. It's rare. In fact, after this treatment plant, there are no more mandatory encounters that take place on it, so the difficulty can actually invert since you may be switching to it yourself as a means of combating opponents on other water fields. However, for the times when it works against you, it will essentially act as a poison version of Burning Field, while also having the difficulty of lowered speed and loss of type coverage that comes from a water field. The worst thing here is the fact that poison is shielded completely from one of its weaknesses, ground. So you'll have to make do with Psychic only or Brute Force. You'll probably need to get creative though, against the one major opponent that does make this field its home. Depth 5, difficulty 6. Before we move on, I figured we should take another look at the galaxy map. Now you can see what I meant when I used the term Water Constellation. There's no more volatile section of this map than right here. Say you're on water surface. A poison move can change it to Murkwater. A blizzard freezes it over into Icy Field. Fire or Earthquake changes the ice back into water surface, where Earthquake now no longer works. Then something dives, and you're underwater now, where fire stops working and ground works again. There are so many interactions to keep track of here, demonstrating at last how much a Reborn battle can shift. This will become the vital ingredient to success for the rest of the game. You will need to master the field effects and know exactly how to mold and morph them to claim victory over everything the game will throw at you. Okay, enough theory. We're standing in a sewer for God's sake. We catch up to Titania in the next room, who finds out she'll have to jump across the garbage platforms in the water to advance. She crosses successfully, but her pun-intended steely exterior cracks a bit. She admits she's not in good shape from the dive down the waterfall, and neither mentally. She's fully expecting that Amaria will toss her out of her house, but as long as Titania sees to it that Amaria lives, she's fine with that. She's also fine with candy. Any candy, right fucking now. That gives you a relationship point. She asked us to figure out what to do in this room, since from this position, we aren't able to make any more meaningful progress. Going down and to the right leads to a yellow gate, which means impassable. To the left, crossing by stairs or sludge balls, is a terminal that opens a gate north of you, which just loops around to the same spot you started. But if you lower the water level with the terminal near Titania, then you can move around these piles of filth. Pleasant. By doing that, moving these 2 heaps to the right to form a similarly spaced pair of steps, you can get around the impassable gate at the north end of the room. There's another terminal that makes that gate open up now, along with a locked door nearby called the Gum Room. Keep it in mind, though you'll be reminded about it when you find the key. In the room to the right, you and Titania see another series of jumps, and Titania begrudgingly goes first. That's when the water level suddenly falls without our input. Turns out the commander we heard about has come to see us. It's Taka. The son of Solaris seems to mock us, as Titania questions him with the usual vitriol, why he let us in here at all when keeping us locked out would let him do what Meteor wanted with ease. Taka deems it not worth it to answer her, as Titania ridicules him and Meteor about keeping secrets, saying again how she has been feeding grunts false information. However, Taka remains uninterested in her barbs and leaves her stranded. After shooting a few more of them at the gone Taka, she turns and asks we help her, though she can't help but drizzle a little malice on her request. Another sludge puzzle to solve, but before you do, you'll come up to the water level controls and find one of those cultists here. This introduces yet another rank of Meteor Grunt, the New World Cultists. Like most grunts that have only 3 Pokemon, this one isn't difficult, but it would once again behoove you to avoid letting any Pokemon faint. You will get periodic heals, but you'll need to win fights to get them, so don't paint yourself into a corner. After this battle, you'll have access to the water controls, but that alone doesn't help Titania. You'll need to move this pile to a spot between Titania and the right side catwalk. With that done, she'll cross over and open the shutter for you, making a comment that something's off. Lower the water level to advance to the room to the south. You'll have no direction to go except into the teeth of a double battle against 2 cultists. But you're not alone, of course. Titania steps up beside you, but reminds you that she only has 1 Pokemon. A level 80 Aegislash. Yeah, that's pretty good. This battle, though, can rough you up. And if you started with less than all of your own team, you risk losing to their 6 Pokemon. This is why I said not to let feints happen, but when you succeed, Titania's presence revitalizes your whole team. Either that, or she's walking around with a Pokemart in her pocket like everyone else apparently does when you battle with them. When the battle ends, Titania swiftly executes one of the cultists, which gets a milquetoast reaction from Taka, to which Titania replies how Meteor will stop at nothing to get what they want, so why should she? Taka then admits that some of what Meteor has been doing is wrong, and tries to reason with Titania, but she tells him to let Amaria go before making that argument. To that he declines, but informs us that she's in the control room deeper in the plant. Titania attempts to advance, but Taka traps her again to her annoyance. Let's figure out how to shove the slop this time. You just need to move this slop around Titania's pillar, then head up to the top left of the room to raise the water again, though another grunt guards it. A grunt who angrily points at Titania about killing someone else. That person, as she states at the end of the battle, was her sister. As Saphira, Heather, and Titania seem to agree, the ends justify the means. Do they? Increase the water level now, which lets Titania move a few jumps, but not all the way to the next PC. Move the block of Bleck to just below her, raise the water, and let Titania get you access to the next area. The next area, after interacting with the console, is one you've already been to. What's changed? By being able to go back through that arrow gate after lowering the water, you'll find these steps and more trash to manipulate. Put them together like this to cross over the sludge stream to this console, opening another shortcut. Lower the water and you can walk across the drained canal to the left. Titania rejoins you here to explain how this is the central turbine room, and the likely target for whatever Meteor is doing here, besides abducting fallen girls holding mystical keys. Titania says she'll take the north door, and we should go west. I'm not sure where she goes because the north is another area we already were, but we go to the left. As you do though, you may see the light shard in PC to the south. That's a lot of contingency. It doesn't take long to learn what probably is happening in this plant, as we spy yet another pulse dex ball. We can hit this console to make the gate above it active, but per the arrow, it only allows passage from the right. On the other side of the room, we lower the water, but there's no way down to the sewer floor from here, so we do have to go back to where Titania went. Now we can return to the second room of the dungeon and push around some debris again. Push the 2 pieces over to the left like this, and fill the room. Jump across, and you'll be in the room we just drained a minute ago. There are a lot of paths. First to note is this system storage room, which is locked. To the right is a way back to the starting room, along with a door that lets you get that item you could see at the start of the dungeon. It's a hyper potion. Yeah, I'm disappointed too. Then to the west in the latest room, we walk on the slippery floor to find a black sludge. Ew, oh, it's not even that exciting, we already had one. There was another door in the north we should go through first, which starts by fighting this cultist, who annoyed the shit out of me with Imposter Ditto against my Meow Stick. If you don't care about running all the way out of the dungeon to heal, then he doesn't matter at all. If you do, then he's a pain. Anyway, make it low tide in this room with the console to beat another cultist. With that, the room is clear to puzzle your way through. This one is quite a bit harder than the other rooms and requires some more ingenuity. First, go get the item in the bottom left of the canal, a smoke ball. Now comes the puzzle. You may think that you should form a bridge to the console directly, but the tile you need to place a garbage block in is illegal. Instead, you need to place the movable blocks directly above and below that pipe, and jump over it entirely to swing around and use the two already placed heaps to get to the console. For this, you'll reach the item on the table, a barrel grid key. I didn't mention it yet, but all these rooms are meant to serve as different wards in the city, and are each named as such, so this key is meant to be used here, not somewhere in Barrel. By the way, quick tip, you should have actually come to this room from the upper right door with the water raised first. If you do what I do, then you have to redo the section before it in extra time. It lets you unlock the storage closet door and grab the two items you saw before, which are a quick ball and the aforeshadowed pulse stacks. Once again, let's wait until we catch sight of the monster to go into depth with it. Go into that open storage room now, which is a darkened room that pops up a message stating that a machine is buzzing loudly. Searching the room yields a cell battery and another electrolyzer. Perfect. Now we could have both Electivire and Magmortar. As for the machine in the center of the room, it won't do anything when examined. You may have gathered from the hint that the objective of this room is to change the field effect from probably short circuit to factory, which you would do with discharge. However, even if you had the move, like I do on my Zebstrika, no wild encounters are in here. So how do you do that? Well, leave and come back and, hey, the item's back. No, it's Electrode up to its usual tricks. Great, now we could use discharge in this room and... oh, even better, he'll just do it for us. With that, the room reboots and the machine becomes active. When you interact with it now, it'll ask if you want to withdraw one stored item. Yes. Fennekin. Sweet. It also comes with a message, showing that their prose matches their speech. Now it's time to go west into another new room. When we leap over to Titania, who says her search has run dry, the room also goes dry. That's when Titania walks over to Taka just off screen and lays into him to drop his charade. He plays dumb, but Titania points out that the only reason we've gotten this far through all of his apparent meddling was because of said meddling. He continues to act like he's the fool, but Titania has had enough and digs hard into Taka. He comes out and says that, even if he disagrees with Meteor's actions, he's stuck in their outfit. But Titania won't hear his complacency and tells him to leave Meteor, needling him that he's scared to stop sitting on his hands. Taka telling her that Solaris is his father doesn't sway her opinion. Taka goes on and says much more. That he and his father are the last descendants of the keepers of the Meteor site where Arceus was spoken to have fallen to Earth. He says that this is his birthright, and he can't run from it. Titania still doesn't care, saying his actions or his inaction against Meteor's crimes still implicate him, and that if he won't change it, then leave. Taka ends the conversation, saying Titania wouldn't understand, and mentions that following him will lead us to Amaria as long as we have a certain key from another room. Oh, that's me, I did the thing out of order. Once Taka leaves, Titania shows how she felt about that conversation. Then says a line that... no, not that way. She bottles up her anger again, and tells us we should go on. When you cross to the lower platform, you'll see an item, but there's no way to reach it yet. Instead, you should take on the two cultists waiting on the left, who box you out of where Taka went. Titania quickly backs you up with a definitely not idle threat. Now this was a scary fight for me, because I did end up letting a lot of my team faint, but even so, Aegislash ends up defeating several of the opponents. When it wasn't fucking baiting me with King's Shield, we win the exchange as Titania moves forward to take lives again. And just like that, she takes their lives and tells the two still living cultists to go far away and start new ones. Look at that. Growth. She would have rather rent them, she admits. Now we can unlock the door ahead using that barrel key we got and proceed inside. On the right is a one-way gate to the center of the room, which Titania decides to take first. Then it turns off. She says that she can control the water level from here, but we have to get her out of the bind again. Now the roles are reversed. You'll need to go into the trenches and push around the trash bales to form the bridges for yourself, as Titania changes the water level when you solve the section. For this first part, you'll have to look ahead and realize that you need to separate the two blocks to reach all the way to the top half of the room. Titania lets you reach the lower floor again, and you can repeat this approach to reach the west end. Now you can traverse most of the plant around the south side, opening a shutter along the way to avoid redoing those puzzles. This eventually lands you in the ominous room you saw earlier. You can first open another shutter to make travel easier, then prepare. Click on the water control once more, and you'll learn what's been wrong with Reborn's water all this time. There's a pulse submerged in the water, stopping up the water flow and contaminating all the water that comes through. That pulse contains a Swalot. Come on, what is with all these overly tanky Pokemon? Once again, a poison-type pulse is presented to us with absurd defenses. Put on your plumber hat, it's time to remove the pulse stopple. This is the only major battle that takes place on Murkwater surface in this plant, and funnily enough, it won't even. First turn, I use Vanillix's Blizzard to immediately freeze over the water. There's a very important reason for doing that. This Pulse Swalot, as you saw, has Water Absorb, and that ability gives double leftovers to any poison type. After freezing the Murk and taking a Sludge Wave for a lot of damage, you'll see that Water Absorb healing would be on top of a black sludge as well. However, instead of having 3/16 healing, the Swalot is being pelted by hail on Icy Field, effectively reducing its per turn healing to 0. Vanillix follows up with a Freeze Dry for a ton of damage, but he unfortunately doesn't make it through another Sludge Wave. I send out Meowstic next, having another type it's weak to, and her Psychic easily puts it in range to die on the next one. But the damn unconscious Pokemon gets a crit with its next Sludge Wave, which doesn't kill, but my own Hail does in Meowstic. Pain in the ass, and now I have no more weaknesses to exploit. I decide to just use Houndoom, hoping his Dark Pulse has the oomph to do it, but while it doesn't, the Swalot loses its turn to a flinch and it takes the same dive as Meowstic, dying to little pellets of ice on its head. For being the better version of the Muck battle and higher level than Avalugg, Swalot really underwhelms here. However, that can probably all be attributed to Murkwater being very easy to disrupt. If not for that, then in those 4 turns, Swalot would have healed 75% of the damage I did. This is a great example, yet again, of why reading and learning the field effect descriptions is critical. Battles like this could go horribly if you try to smash your head against it, hitting weaknesses with no thought. With the obstruction cleared, raising the water level again does something very satisfying. It fills the room with clean water. The map nearby reflects this too. We should go back to Titania. On the way, you should activate the pumps you pass by, which will clean the rooms of all the filth now. Of course, this also means you can surf on this water now. This lets you return to the Steel Leader, who will flush this room as well. She then explains that, off-screen, a gate just became active, but there's a series of them, not all turned on yet. In order to get through all of them, we'll need to restore the clean water to every room in the plant. Back in the previous room, such clean water lets us surf and reach that item from earlier, that being a scope lens. While you're going back through the chambers, you can get a few very hidden items by surfing. First, in this room, surf over to this island of isolated turbines to find the TM for Smart Strike. Then in this eastern room, swim to the north and find another TM, Wild Charge. Oh, that's a nice one. Flushing the rest of the rooms is a simple matter. Return to Titania to pass through all of the gates, then punch this console, and there. The water treatment plant is complete, except for one last encounter. Titania says that the city's water should all be clean now. All that's left is to make sure Amaria sees it. She heads to the right, towards the now open office door, where another light shard awaits. Are you ready? No, you're not. How could you be? This is what I tell me from years ago, playing this for the first time. Enter the foreboding door, and find Titania with her blade pointed at Taka. The admin tries to get her to ease up, telling her that Amaria's wounds were treated, but that's not good enough. She tells him to cough up the sapphire bracelets. He does. Well, that was simple. Not quite, Taka reveals. Other meteors are heading here to get those bracelets. Titania pushes that aside as she picks up an unconscious Amaria, then clarifies that Taka really is going to let us walk out of here. Yes, but with one request. I have to defeat Taka. Yeah, that's a request, not a requirement. Taka just wants to cover his ass. Titania calls him out again, repeating her opinion he should resign. Taka worries about how his father would feel as Titania reminds him of all the people Solaris and his organization have killed. Taka is reduced to begging, but Titania is unfeeling towards his plight and exits with the water leader. Before we leave, though, Taka begs us one more time. Will I defeat him? Throughout the game, several times you've been given choices, and those choices affected future events in the game. Like those other ones, battling Taka is a choice. Here's the difference. This is the most important choice in the entire game. What you choose here has the most drastic effect on the game of any of the choices. So what did I decide for this playthrough? I'm going to... Huh? Oh. Right. Anyway. I'm going to fight him. My choice is made. We will learn of the consequences. It's been some time since we last fought Taka. 8 episodes, and he has finally accrued a team of 6. The first one he sends out is Klefki, a real pain in the ass. Meowstick starts, and we see that it is even more of a pain after Fake Out. It has leftovers. It's not very durable, but I want to set up Light Screen before switching to something that can kill it. It definitely has Prankster though, as it goes for Thunder Wave to paralyze Meowstick. She ignores it to put up the screen, then she hightails it out of there to let Houndoom take over. As she did that though, Klefki copies her last move, Light Screen. Wonderful. It's a good thing I have Brick Break on Heracross if the opportunity presents itself. Houndoom is easily able to tear down the keychain with 2 flamethrowers, only taking a poor foul play in the process. What's out next though is Minior, which is annoying with Light Screen up. Heracross can't get out in front of a flying type, so I'll have to tolerate the up special defense and use Greninja. Greninja helps me immensely by critting the first shuriken hits, the total move bringing Minior below half. It goes for Shell Smash as it's apt to do, but going further, it also uses a white herb to remove the defense losses that just incurred. However, with its overall special defense lower after shields down, Greninja is able to take it out with the minimum number of shurikens anyway. Better still, enough time has passed that Taka's Light Screen is gone, and he's sending out Exeggutor. Fortunately, I remembered that this was the one with the neck, so I send out Vanillux, who easily destroys the palm tree. Taka prepares to send in Komala, something that is pretty attuned to Taka's attitude. Heracross gives me another simple matchup after taking a weak Sucker Punch. This is going to lead to Taka's ace, Chatot. To this, I use Vanillux again, hoping to bury the bird. But this is when my earlier warning about Chatot being a bastard comes to fruition. It pops a seed to give it laser focus, with which it incinerates Vanillux with Heat Wave. When I try sending out Heracross for Rock Blast, she is burned away just as easily. I then go into Houndoom, thinking he must be fast enough. No, he's not! A Hyper Voice erupts from the small bird, but Houndoom mercifully survives and remarkably scorches the Chatot back, practically one-shotting it. Unfortunately, Houndoom can't sustain himself in the hail, and falls. I send Greninja back out blind to Taka's final Pokemon, which is a Gliscor. One more favorable matchup for me, though Greninja's first Shuriken couldn't kill at any rate. It gets a decent 3-hit, Greninja eats a factory-shattering Earthquake, and then another Water Shuriken ends the fight. Not the worst battle ever, though Chatot is frustrating. I don't know why it is so fast. It's obviously not using a Choice Scarf, but whatever, at least this battle is behind us. Right? Taka will thank you for accommodating his request, and heals our team. Thank him for this act of mercy, because just as you would attempt to escape, in walks Ace. They stroll in and ask Taka if he has the bracelets, but Taka makes it seem like we just beat him to take them back. In that case, Ace decides, they will have a turn against us. It's time for a horrible convention to rear its ugly head for the first real time. For fulfilling Taka's wish, you are forced into a gauntlet. Up until now, the gauntlet has been a concept that hasn't shown itself very much at all, let alone been extremely difficult. That all changes from this moment. If you didn't battle Taka, then Ace would be the only battle you have to face, but let's just say, we'd be having this discussion this episode regardless. Fuck, why am I jumping to that? I need to actually beat Ace first. And of course, after clubs, diamonds, and hearts, it's time for Ace of Spades. Their first Pokemon is Roserade, which kind of throws you off, doesn't it? Roserade isn't Ace's anchor, so this is probably the real one, which my fake out confirms. I don't want Meowstic staying here too long, so I try to put up a light screen and bail. Roserade is faster though, and Giga Drain does severe damage to Meowstic and heals away the fake out damage. Importantly, light screen goes up and Meowstic trades places with Houndoom. Another Giga Drain does little to him as he lines up a flamethrower to burn up the masked Pokemon. Ace is switching now into Nidoqueen, so I decide to let Meowstic go back to hopefully outspeed, maybe one-shot with Psychic. She does outspeed, but she falls about 8% short of a one-shot. Earth Power takes her down as Greninja quickly mops up the queen. Ace decides next to send out the first Hell Fight Pokemon of the series. Do you remember which one that was? Klinklang. At this point though, the threat of Klinklang has greatly fallen, as Houndoom returns to blast down the Gear Pokemon in one flamethrower. But here's a Pokemon whose threat is still very great, which ends up being Ace's current ace, Metagross. That's pretty bad, though Houndoom is highly effective against it. Also, awesome shiny scheme. The Reborn colors in black paint are so badass. I think about which is the better play here, a foul one or a non-foul one. Though Metagross has ridiculous attack, it also has ridiculous defense. I decide to go for Flamethrower and discover that was the right choice, one-shotting the pseudo while only receiving a minor bullet punch. Next is the spurned ace, Delphox. Houndoom would be a good choice against it too, but I decide to go to my favorite counter to it, its water counterpart in Gen 6. Unfortunately, Water Shuriken hits the worst luck, while the Delphox had popped a seed for special attack and laser focus. As such, the dazzling gleam that emitted from it rubs out Greninja. The worst case scenario occurs now, as my light screen disappears at the worst time. Houndoom is outsped. He dies. Vanillix is one-shot, Heracross is one-shot, and Kricketune is one-shot. All of my team wiped out right at the end. And now the horrible feeling sinks into your guts. You have to start the gauntlet again from the beginning. This is a miserable feeling, and I'm immediately feeling that Kricketune can't hold up here. He wasn't used in Taka's fight, and when I needed something to beat Delphox, he surely wasn't it. However, I quickly change my mind and leave him in. He may not be able to directly handle the Delphox, but if he puts down a sticky web, then the threat will be eliminated. But still, this means I must redo the battle with Taka first. What's fortunate is that the first 4 Pokemon go exactly the same, with Greninja getting a 4-hit on Minior to emulate the crit from last time. Then comes that damn Chatot again. I decide to go into Houndoom to do what I did last time, but when it comes out, I'm reminded that it is going to crit the first attack. In that case, I have to sack something into that, which will be Paralyzed Meowstic. Now Houndoom comes back to try for real, but this damnable bird gets a favorable range and Houndoom is taken out. Fuck, now what? The only Pokemon who has a chance is Greninja. I was thinking I was going to use Water Shuriken, but then I see Smackdown and decide, fuck it, why not? It does a really strong hit, and better yet, somehow, Greninja easily survives the Hyper Voice. I don't get why that is, to be honest. Greninja's special defense is barely 100. I'm not complaining now though, as I finish off the horrible Chatot with Water Shuriken. Last again is Gliscor. This time Greninja can't beat it himself, but Vanillix picks up the slack and easily 4 times the flying ground type. Holding cancel, we then start the second leg of this gauntlet again. Roserade and Nidoqueen both progress the same as before, bringing me to Klinklang. I decide this is the time to get Kricketune in there to lay down Sticky Web. Are you kidding me? Kricketune gets outsped in one shot by half a gear grind? God damn it, now the attempt is basically lost. Houndoom can do the exact same thing to Klinklang and Metagross as before, but we're in just as bad a spot as the first time. The only Pokemon of mine who's going to get a chance to hit Delphox is Greninja, and I'm not sure if even a 5 hits. Oh, I'll take it, all day and all night. Disgusting luck. To this, the final Pokemon Ace is going to send out prints a message you should never see. Ace is going to send out a Zoroark. Sad. Heracross goes out to meet it. I'm annoyed when it outspeeds and uses Flamethrower, but Heracross survives it and returns a close combat to goddamn Focus Sash. Heracross is finished off as Greninja comes out to come on with the Max Potion! Don't you dare steal this from me, Ace. Thank God. A combined 5 hits of 2 Water Shuriken uses gets me the stressful win, and this gauntlet has been conquered. But if you think that you can be calm yet, you don't know what horror is waiting for you next. Let's take a look now at the team that beat this horrible double gauntlet before. Yes, my last file also chose to fight Taka. As you can see, Ace broke my team to pieces before I took the win. I distinctly remember that Taka would easily fall every time I tried, but Ace was awful to fight. When the battle is over, Ace is privy to the fact that we don't have the bracelets, and questions Taka about it. Taka mutters that it was Titania who took them. Mostly true, but Ace, with a click of a pager, informs us that Titania's escape with Amaria and the bracelets will be dealt with by the backup team waiting outside. They say we should hurry along if we want to head off Meteor's attack. Omniscient mode engages, as Ace then turns back to Taka to inquire further about his behavior. When Taka resists, Ace muses how they will just employ their ability to read minds. What Ace says gives eerie plausibility to that claim, as they recap exactly what just happened. But Ace goes on to say that the other reason Taka is afraid to leave or rebel is Lyn. Taka is frustrated by Ace's trick, but admits that he's heard he is called a liability by others. He goes on to reveal that Lyn warned him that one more failure would be his last. Ace assures that Solaris would not abide a threat to his son like this, and shows that they too believe Lyn is detrimental to Solaris' goal and this family. Ace then suggests that the two of them recommend to Solaris to eject Lyn from Meteor, though Taka is sure that he will be ignored. Ace offers to do it themselves then, and tells Taka to consider the matter resolved. You can't hear me, but remember my info I wanted to exchange with you, Ace? It's time to leave the water treatment plant and help defend Titania and Amaria. We head back to the... What? Shade? From literally nowhere, the Ghost Leader appears and delivers a message, one cryptic as usual, if you didn't know the truth. The specter fades, leaving us with more questions and despair, and we return to the first room of the dungeon. Titania is sitting in the water already upon Amaria's Lapras. She calls us out for battling Taka, and tells us that in the end, with Amaria's Pokemon, she never did need us to get out of here. But in a rare moment of softness, says she doesn't regret bringing us. You're welcome? Titania and Amaria ascend, and we follow soon after. By the way, something I didn't point out at the beginning was that Victoria was standing on the grand stairs when we came down here. Well, if you were extremely eagle-eyed, then you'd spot 2 more familiar characters at the bottom of the screen as you come back up. When you make your way up to Fiore Mansion once again, one of those 2 voices calls out to you. 14 episodes later, as she herself mentions it, nice fourth wall break, we meet up again with Julia, and right behind her, Florinia. This is a really cool moment. Once again, especially for me, as I went years without seeing these 2 having any new airtime in the game, while almost all the other characters followed along with us. I really enjoy the throwback. After Julia tells us that they followed us after seeing their other 2 friends and making a point about how fucked up it is to challenge the gym leaders in this region, yeah, good point, Florinia tells us that she was given something by Ame to give to us, as a way to apologize for that, and to make it easier to complete our league challenge. The HM for Fly. Fuck yes! Of course, one last obstacle stands between us and using it. The badge from Ciel. Well, one obstacle, and one horrible, mammoth, insurmountable ordeal. That ordeal comes in the form of the helicopter that is flying towards Fiore Mansion, as Florinia spots. Julia charges off to assist the other 2 Onyx School alums, as Florinia tells us, like I just did, that this challenge may not be easy to overcome. Oh no. It's time. What we're about to go through is the game's final warning. A test to see if your resolve is actually stern enough to beat this game. When you step through this door, the most difficult thing you've done in this game by 100 miles will begin, and for many, this is the breaking point. Coming out from a 2-year hiatus for my own playthrough and being presented with this was debilitating. We are about to enter the Fiore Gauntlet. A gauntlet that consists not of 2, but 3 double battles. We will have a partner in each fight, but don't you dare think that matters. You had better be pulling far more than the majority of the weight in these fights. It is absolutely imperative that you have every level possible and make sure your EVs aren't completely trash. For the first time in this series, I'm going to go over my team composition for a sequence other than a gym leader, though only for what each teammate is doing rather than who they are countering. Because when you have to face over 30 Pokemon in a row, your Pokemon better be the very fucking best like no one ever was. Here's 2 bits of good news about this horrible situation. First, there will be no field effect in this gauntlet. That means this is a basic vanilla slug match, a mercy. Second, being with a partner means you're going to be healed after each segment of this gauntlet. That means that the Pokemon you put up first is going to be first every time. I'm going to make that be Meowstic here. The reason for that is Light Screen. She's decently fast, so the hope is that she will be able to put up the screen before getting hit, and then hopefully can have another turn to do damage. Truth be told, I wish it was Reflect, and it may cause me to switch her out for something that can use Reflect instead. Next is Kricketune. For a similar purpose to Meowstic, his entire goal is to put down Sticky Web. Now it would be nice if he or Meowstic could also kill things in the process, but Sticky Web will greatly hamper the teams to come, and barring Defog or Rapid Spin, Sticky Web's infinite turn duration is incredibly powerful here. Then Vanillux. The Clutch Master is a no-brainer, and here's the thing. I do know many of the Pokemon types I have to deal with coming up, and let me say, Vanillux is staying on this team no matter who else needs to leave. After that we have Houndoom. Though Destiny Bond is much less potent when it only takes out 1/12 of the enemy forces, his speed and single target power are great, and should he run low on health, then his special trick can take even one more opponent to the grave with him. Then we have Heracross. She has a lot of power, but will be at the mercy of Sticky Web holding down the opposing side's speed. If so, then she can unload on many different Pokemon, and is yet again hitting a lot of weaknesses. Finally, Greninja. This is the only pick that I'm pretty sure I'll need to change. He's good, he's fast, but his move pool is still not amazing. And other than picking off weakened foes and messing around with Protean, he could be too much dead weight in a sequence this hard. This is the first draft. Now we come to the soft rule I mentioned in the first episode. Items in battle. I can't say for sure if I did use items here. You'd think there'd be no reason since you get a full heal for each stage, but that's not enough. If you get fucked on the final battle, it's a crushing feeling. But I'm not going to bend the rules so easily. Here's what's going to happen. 65 resets. If I have not beaten this horrible monstrosity of a scene in 65 attempts, even after team reworks and everything else, I will resort to healing items if the opportunity arises. Why 65? One more than the Tsarina from episode 2. Will I really lose 65 times to this fight? I truly couldn't say. The gut-wrenching answer is... maybe. When you finally enter the house, either in ignorance or with building dread, you'll get to see who's here, and it's nearly as horrible as it can be. It is Solaris, along with Sirius. Then it gets even worse as Blake steps out of the helicopter, along with Fuck You, Fern. Fern backtalks his murderous bosses about proving himself, which gets Blake to talk down to him about doing something worth remembering. When Fern gives him a comeback about Ametrine, Blake laughs and states he likes Fern. What a surprise. Solaris growls at them to get their stupid asses in gear and reminds them of their objective to get the bracelets, while warning them darkly they will not speak badly of Taka. Solaris enters the house, speaking his overall goal of purification, but his own subordinates show, behind his back, that they are not on Solaris' side. Their goal is a new world. We find ourselves in the mansion now, with Julia pep-talking us about our strategy. She thinks we should lure them in and blow up the house with them in it. Holy shit, add Julia to the ends and means group. But Titania denies this plan, as Amaria is still injured and we can't move her far. Florinia instead looks at the house around us and, rejecting Titania's plan to hold Meteor off at the entrances, says instead we should stand at the top of the stairs and form a defensive line since Meteor will probably break through the walls. She says this in her usual Thesaurus heavy way and gets a vitriolic response out of Titania. But Julia tells her to stow that, as we are out of time. Florinia and I take the stairs. Julia takes the right side room by the healing station, and Titania stays with Amaria. With this, the nightmare begins. Walking in first is Solaris. He gives us one chance. Relinquish the bracelets, or he will take them. No, let's do this, Solaris. The windows shatter, and the gauntlet begins. The first wave is against two of Meteor's ace grunts. They lead with Levany and Grumpig, which gives me a lot to do with Meowstic, while Florinia sends out a Hippowdon. But here's a huge issue. You know all those setup moves I mentioned I wanted to use? I use Light Screen. Then Levany uses Sticky Web. And Grumpig uses Light Screen too. Holy shit. After Hippowdon dealt some damage with Rock Slide, Meowstic throws a Shadow Ball at the pig, but the damage is not good. Levany then uses X-Scissor on Meowstic, and she's down 2/3. It gets worse. Grumpig uses Reflect. Rock Slide from the Hippo now fails to kill either, though I can go first with Meowstic to kill Grumpig with another Shadow Ball. This leaves her easily finished off by Levany, who gets mopped up by another Rock Slide. Both screens are up on their side. I have to use Brick Break on Heracross. But this was not a good idea, as it allows their side to send out good counters to her, those being Golem and worse, Noctowl. I can't do this with a speed stage, Lost. Noctowl will easily kill, so instead I try to go into Greninja to kill the Golem through the light screen. This goes incredibly horribly, as Noctowl gets a crit Air Slash and Golem uses Earthquake, killing Greninja, while all Hippowdon did was use Yawn. The best thing I can do is use Vanillux to hopefully hit both of them with weakness. Again, this Sticky Web destroys any plan I had by having Noctowl use Hypnosis on Vanillux and hit. Hippowdon just goes again for a fucking Yawn, while Rock Slide from Golem takes half of Vanillux's life. Finally, the light screen fades on its own, and I have to pray that Vanillux wakes up this turn. Noctowl uses Heat Wave, you know, an owl, Heat Wave, but Vanillux survives due to Light Screen and Clutchness. The Hippo gets burned right before another Rock Slide, which does nearly nothing. But speaking of clutchness, Vanillix miraculously wakes up to kill the Noctowl and Golem with Blizzard. Their reflect goes away, but now they replace their fallen teammates with Machamp and Manectric. I'm in such a horrible position. Vanillix can't possibly act first, as Machamp takes him out with a Rock Slide while Hippowdon just yawns again. My team has become so thin already. I decide to go into Houndoom in order to hopefully find raw speed against this shitty Sticky Web. Manectric finally defeats Florinia's first Pokemon, and I find out that Houndoom is able to outspeed the Machamp and blast him with Flamethrower, burning him and allowing him to survive the subsequent Dynamic Punch, though he gets unavoidably confused. That was big, though I'm feeling so low about any of this. My light screen is gone now, as Tangrowth takes the field. I just want Houndoom to take out the Machamp, but Manectric moves first with Hidden Power against Houndoom. But he lives! And he keeps a clear head! Machamp, thankfully, is done, but the left grunt isn't. After a Giga Drain takes a lot off the Manectric, the left side puts out a Purugly. Houndoom doesn't have it in him to do any more, while Tangrowth knocks off the Manectric, taking some damage from it beforehand. But I'm aghast at what's next when I send out Heracross. Salazzle! For God's sake, can I have the advantage anywhere? The Salazzle ignores me and kills Tangrowth, but the Purugly gets a Forsaken Hypnosis to land on Heracross. Great, no luck at all. Florinia sends in Breloom, which I want to hope is going to do something with its speed, but Sticky Web and Salazzle's Flamethrower says no. Heracross loses HP and doesn't wake up. Florinia's next one is a Torterra. Now Salazzle is done teasing me and Flamethrowers Heracross away. With great fortune, Purugly misses Hypnosis on the Tortoise, who answers it with a superpower to crush it. However, I'm down to my last Pokemon, Kricketune, but the left grunt has exhausted his whole roster. But what can Kricketune do here? The answer is nothing, as Salazzle burns him away with Flamethrower. Though what Kricketune actually did was make the AI not kill the right opponent. Torterra was able to get 2 Rock Slides against the Lizard because of this, killing it. But the fight isn't over. The right grunt has one more, Vileplume, which takes out Torterra. I'm now no longer in control of anything, and must watch what happens instead. Florinia will have to finish this fight, and she hopes to do so next with a Ferrothorn. That walls the Vileplume well, but it also does poor damage with Gyro Ball. However, it is able to outpace it, and somehow, after this colossal train wreck of a battle, we defeated the first step, which was a combined team of only 9 Pokemon. With the grunts dispatched, we are suddenly faced with Sirius, who drags in Fern, who calls to Florinia for help. Sirius threatens Fern to his sister for the bracelets, just as another window shatters in the healing room. Julia enters to repel them, as Sirius warns Florinia to decide. Fern begs her not to turn her back on him, but then Florinia does. Whoa, that's cold. Keep in mind, Florinia should have no idea that Fern is in Meteor, so she's literally throwing him away to keep Meteor from achieving the objective. I mean, no skin off my nose, it's fucking Fern. Fern drops the act and torches her robotic attitude. At the same time, the other worst person emerges from the door to the right, Blake. Taken off guard by Julia's bombing, he freezes the door shut, then turns to us and says this: "That's my line, you asshole." This is when Solaris commands the 2 fuckers to take us out, which now informs Florinia that Fern is a traitor. Not only that, he gave Meteor the layout of this mansion to make it easier to infiltrate. You really are scum, Fern. Florinia and I prepare to remedy the situation. Now it's time for a double dose of douchebag. The next fight is Blake and Fern. Worse than that, it's time for the first battle of Pokemon Reborn that pits you against the absolute maximum number of opponents you can face. If and when you win this fight, you will have felled 12 Pokemon. Out first is Haxorus, and fucker! That's Walrein if you forgot. I utterly hate this position. I want Hippowdon to do something before Walrein just eats it, so I fake out the Walrus. Meanwhile, the Haxorus starts Outrage, which slams Hippowdon. For my fake out, the Hippo just uses Yawn again. This stall shit really isn't helping Florinia. Meowstic then goes for the light screen, but against the physical outrage it is useless and she faints. Amazingly lucky though is Walreign's miss, letting Hippowdon set up another yawn. Walreign goes to sleep, and I see this as my chance to use Sticky Web. And the outrage hits Kricketune and kills him. Boy, that is outrageous. Hippowdon misses a rock slide on the sleeping fucker while Haxorus takes a little damage and goes to sleep. If they're asleep, it's time for Heracross to go out there and see if it's possible to turn this around. She clobbers the Walrein with close combat from full health and kills him! Good, that's important to know. The Hippo tries to kill the dragon with Stomping Tantrum, but cannot. Blake's next Pokemon, infuriatingly, is Gyarados. Yeah, why wouldn't you cover literally everything we have? With less defense, I have to bounce Heracross out and put Vanillux in. It can deal with both of their side, but not all at once. Gyarados aims Waterfall at the Hippo to defeat it, Florinia sending out Ferrothorn. Haxorus stays asleep once more, but Gyarados gets to hit Vanillux first with Stone Edge. And Vanillux says, "Good hit. My turn." Gyarados is dead, and my short-term plan now is to take down Blake to isolate Fern. That Ferrothorn isn't slouching either, as it gyro balls the Haxorus out. Their side, though, is just refilled with another horrible selection of Pokemon, Scizor and Mamoswine. Now Vanillux is way out of position, but his HP is too low that I don't expect him to do anything anywhere else, so I try to use a move now. It doesn't get to though, as he's punched with a bullet, and a Rock Slide takes Ferrothorn's turn. Fuck! I want to take down Mamoswine, and for that, I send Heracross. Shittily, both opponents use a priority move on her first to take off 2/3 of her HP, as she runs in with close combat and smashes the Mammoth. Sadly, dealing with the Scizor would have let Ferrothorn's Power Whip be more useful. Starmie. Oh holy fuck. Heracross is now like Vanillux, not having a prayer to do anything more. He's bullet punched as well, but Ferrothorn Power Whips to Starmie directly out. Huge. I really want to use Houndoom on the double weakness of Scizor, but now I find out I have to use it on the double weakness of Alolan Sandslash. This sucks. The one time I scream for Heat Wave. What's enraging is that my hail probably activated that damn Quillrat's ability to outspeed us for Rock Slide, but Houndoom survives it and melts the Sandslash in return. Scizor, though, finishes off Houndoom, leaving me with my last Pokemon, Greninja. To this, Blake sends his last Pokemon, Weavile. Fuck, look at all of this speed! If I want to deal real damage, then I have to use Smackdown here on the Weavile. It goes first, of course it does, and uses Icicle Crash on Ferrothorn, and it doesn't die! Smackdown does over half, Scizor hits Greninja for a third, but Ferrothorn takes out Blake's final Pokemon. If only I had more left! Greninja and Ferrothorn take 2 turns to take down the Scizor once and for all. Out next is Crocodile, and the final straw happens. Greninja uses Water Shuriken, and it gets 2 hits. That pissed me off, as it uses Earthquake to destroy both of us and get 2 Moxie attack stages. Greninja has to get Surf if he's going to stay on this team, though more than likely he won't be coming back to this hell. The fight is probably over. I have no more, and Florinia has lost some already. Her next is Tangrowth, who remarkably survives a throat chop and eats Crook with Giga Drain. Then the infernal Roserade appears and bombs the Tangrowth. At this point, Florinia has no more real offense to put up, as she's using a losing stall strategy with Cradily, only does 1 hit with Torterra, and her Breloom faints on the first Sludge Bomb. That's it. The first loss. How many more? Here's the first problem. The first fight is a clusterfuck. One single reason for that. Leaveney. It has to die before using Sticky Web, and I have the perfect choice for it. Talonflame. The quad damage from flying will kill Leaveney easily, and hopefully Talonflame will still be able to drop a Tailwind before departing. That's what's changed for the second attempt. We start and do just what I said, and it works perfectly. Even better, all Grumpig did was set up Reflect, letting Talonflame use Tailwind first guaranteed. Of course, the arriving golem does its own 4 times damage to Talonflame, taking him out. In the meantime, Hippowdon crunched away the Grumpig after it set up the other screen, putting me up 1. With speed up, I go into Heracross to brick break the 2 screens, but Noctowl has come to be the consequences of that action. It doesn't matter. Breaking the screens is critical, but unfortunately does not kill Golem. A single attack does end Heracross, as I send Vanillux back out to blizzard away the rock and owl. The rock dies, but the owl doesn't. Not until it hits us with Heat Wave, but then a chunk of ice hits it and knocks it out. Vileplume and Machamp appear again, and this is good. I'm still in the Tailwind, so Blizzard goes first again and chews up the Vileplume. Machamp goes down by over half, and Hippowdon goes second to stomping Tantrum the 4-armed fighter into the dirt. Going much better, but now the Tailwind is gone, and Salazzle and Purugly are here. Vanillux could still be useful, so I swap into Houndoom to hopefully eat the probable Flamethrower from Salazzle. But with annoying amounts of foresight, Salazzle uses it on Hippowdon to kill him, while Houndoom loses a third to Frustration. Florinia brings out Torterra as I foul play the Salazzle. It only does half though, and a concerted effort from their side kills Houndoom. Helpfully, Superpower destroys the Purugly, and now the fight is 2-on-1. Meowstic comes out to keep Salazzle from moving, as Torterra alley-oops it with Rock Slide. The last Pokemon left is Manectric, who is no match for a Woodhammer and Psychic, bringing the first fight to an end again. This stage is now pretty tied up, and probably won't need to be talked about anymore. I've been worried about how to write a gauntlet if I lose a lot, so this should be the last you hear anything about this fight, just to expedite the video. But now, before we continue on to the next phase of suffering against the worst people in the game, I need to address something. There will no doubt be some of you who will wonder about if I know the secret about gauntlets. And the answer is yes, I do. And it's cheating. You see, there's something you can do to massively reduce the stress of a gauntlet if you think your team could beat each of the stages. When this fight ends, and as it fades to black, I begin mashing the quick save key, and the save prompt appears. Let me be perfectly clear about my opinion on this matter. This is cheating, and I will never use it. I hold no judgment against anyone else using it, but this is absolutely against the design of the game. Why? Because quick saving didn't exist until the final release of Reborn. I hope that's right. It was either episode 18 or 19. Either way, this oversight wasn't even possible on this gauntlet when it was first unleashed on all us poor players in episode 15. There was one single way to do it. Beat all 3 stages in a row. If you lose, tough. Do them all again. All gauntlets are meant to be done like that. I wanted to make sure that I left no doubt about this when it came to this series. Now that I've said my piece, let's pretend this unintended mechanic doesn't exist and get back to suffering. Now, Talonflame will lead instead of Meowstic, which has advantages and disadvantages. Talonflame will go first and use Tailwind, but is likely to die fast. However, the first turn gives him immense luck, as Outrage hits Hippowdon and Blizzard misses him. Hippowdon even survives both these hits to yawn on the dragon. With full HP still, Talonflame Brave Birds the dragon nearly to death as Rock Slide finishes the job. However, Talonflame gets hit with Blizzard and frozen. Hippowdon yawns at the incoming Rhyperior, and we both faint. I send in Heracross to destroy Fucker, and Florinia sends Tangrowth. A beautiful turn ensues. Close combat decks Walrein, and Giga Drain floors Rhyperior. Perfect turn. And then Gyarados and Decidueye show up. Pain at every turn. I need to switch, but that coverage is horrible to deal with. Meowstic will die to ghost attacks. Houndoom will die to water. Kricketune is frail, so it has to be Vanillux. To my great dismay, they both aimed at me, and Vanillux faints. I send out Houndoom next to burn the Archer Owl, but this only rewards me with an instant knockout at the hands of Waterfall. The fight is spiraling downwards again. A bit late into the fight, I bring out Kricketune, and with incredible luck, Stone Edge aiming at him misses as Roserade kills Tangrowth and Kricketune finally lays the Sticky Web. But this is probably too late. Roserade does a massive hidden power to Ferrothorn, and Gyarados' second Stone Edge does not miss before I can cleave the Roserade. Ferrothorn, though, with its Gyro Ball going crazy, hits Roserade hard enough that it dies to Hail. Gyarados is so bad, though, and my only option besides Heracross is Meowstic. I then probably make a really stupid play and fake out the Gyarados instead of the Scissor, the latter of which bug bites Meowstic to death. Only Heracross left. But Heracross then outspeeds the Gyarados and kills it with Rock Blast. Good to know. Scissor beats Ferrothorn, and out now are Sandslash and Breloom. In a depressing fashion, Heracross is focused down by both attackers. Florinia would have to win the rest of the fight on her own, and she's not going to. Especially if she spores the Scissor instead of punching the Sandslash. Next turn though, that is what she does after Icicle Crash harms her for half, as she Drain Punches most of that HP back. But then Weavile comes out, outspeeds despite Sticky Web, and kills Breloom. Her following Cradily and Torterra can do no more. Alright, truth be told, I really want Heat Wave, and Houndoom can't learn it, so we're switching him for Arcanine. On top of that, Arcanine is going to switch her ability again to Intimidate. There's so many physical moves flying in this hellscape that dropping attack stages will have a very noticeable effect. Also, we're going to use one of them. Kricketune is getting a Focus Sash. It's absolutely imperative that we don't use it on the first fight, since it should be down pat without him having to intervene. But those other fights would improve immensely if I could just get the Sticky Web down early. Now the hope is that he doesn't get double focus before laying down the trap. Oh, quick aside, I'm a big dumb idiot. This gate, that's been sitting there since episode 12 closed, can be opened from the bottom by clicking on this green part on the right. Cool, glad I just ran through the jumping rocks 28 more times instead of figuring that out. I bring this up because I wanted to go back to Agate to change Pokemon. Back in this nightmare, all I have to say now about the first phase is that, because Talonflame kills the Leavanny, I can play this fight like a complete moron and still win. Now, back to douchebaggery. Talonflame immediately puts up Tailwind, but I get fucked over by the outraged coin flip and Talonflame is taken out already. Hippowdon takes a massive blizzard and just yawns back at the Walrein. I then forget what I'm doing again, and bring in Heracross because I can't stand Fucker and want him dead whenever he's there. Tailwinded Heracross mashes the Walrus, but Haxorus decks her immediately with Outrage. That's 2 coin flips lost, thanks. I don't want to use Vanillix now. I feel like I'm going down the same drain again. I instead use Arcanine, who will hopefully land her own Outrage on the dragon. Blake sends Starmie. Fuck you for existing. So you know how Outrage has fucked me 2 times already? Make it 3, as Arcanine goes first, but her Outrage hits Starmie instead without killing it. Its Blizzard ends Hippowdon, and Hax's Outrage hurts Arcanine badly. On the next turn, Outrage, once again, does not do what I want, while still leaving the Starmie alive. Thankfully, a Tailwinded Torterra is somehow faster and overkills the Starmie with a Wood Hammer. I beg for the confusion hit on Haxorus. I don't get it. Arcanine's still alive, but Tailwind has come to an end as Haxorus goes first with another chance to hurt itself. It gets past it again and knocks out Arcanine long before any of the fire double weak Pokemon showed up. Mamoswine and Torterra then trade gigantic hits, with Torterra knocking out the Mamoswine with Wood Hammer and then fainting from recoil. I then remember I had Kricketune, might as well use him now while most of Fern's side is still waiting. Fortunately, Haxorus superpowers the Pharaoh Seed while Kricketune has to take a Stone Edge in the mouth, letting the Focus Sash activate. Because of this, the Avatar of Fury finally gets the Sticky Web on the field, with my 2 other Pokemon left. Pharaoh Seed nearly takes out the Haxorus with Gyro Ball after doing a lot of indirect damage, but it survives just to piss me off some more. Naturally, Kricketune could die to a sneeze, let alone a poison jab, while Pharaoh Seed avenges him and finally makes Fern take out a second Pokemon, which ends up being Scissor to my Vanillix. This fight is foobar. There's no hope. I can't even get Vanillix to go first with Freeze Dry before getting killed right away by a Stone Edge crit. One more grunt dismissal later, we're back to Ass 1 and Ass 2. Unlike last time though, I don't think I could get a luckier first turn. Talonflame tailwinds, but Haxorus lands his outrage on Hippowdon instead. Then, Walrein uses Blizzard and completely whiffs both of us. Hippowdon's yawn is such a sick burn. Sleep. With this, Talonflame will have the chance to deal a ton of damage to Haxorus again, while Hippowdon yawns at him too. Outrage kills the Hippo, and Blizzard takes off a chunk of Talonflame, and maddeningly, he gets frozen again. At this point though, fucker goes to sleep. Tangrowth arrives as I erroneously believe that any fire move will thaw Talonflame, who fails to move. But Tangrowth kills the Haxorus first with Sludge Bomb. The next turn, I'm annoyed that Tailwind is basically going to fade without really doing a lot, so I figure I'll spam it just in case I get lucky. But here's something super interesting. I think Fern is gunning for my Talonflame. Why else would he put a Rhyperior in front of a Tangrowth? As such, the last turn of Tailwind lets the Tangrowth Giga Drain all of Rhyperior's health. Even better, fucker stayed asleep again. Tailwind does end now though, as Fern replaces one ground type with another, Crocodile. Then in an unbelievable stroke of luck, Talonflame defrosts and my spamming Tailwind pays off, as a second one takes effect. The absolute best time for that too, as Crocodile rock slides Talonflame down finally, as Tangrowth eats back his lost HP with a big Giga Drain. The cherry on top, that unending HP abyss on the right still sleeps. Well, I have the perfect solution for him, and that's to not fucking use Heracross again. No, it's time for Kricketune to get out here in the middle of a Tailwind and make sure the rest of the double douche teams lose speed. Kricketune this time gets out there first and lays the hazard, while Tangrowth drains down Crook. Now it's time for Walrein to wake up, and he goes for Blizzard. What's awesome is that Kricketune didn't activate the Focus Sash, meaning, if we make it through this fight, he'll still have it on the final phase. What's not awesome is that Walrein goddamn froze Kricketune too! Fern sends out Scizor now, but it nor I foresaw the Tangrowth having hidden power Fire. Scizor nearly dies, as Kricketune fails to act and dies to Scizor's Bug Bite, while Tangrowth is taken down after an amazing showing. Okay, I don't have much time left on the Tailwind. I need to crush the Walrus now since it is still at full speed. The Scizor is unlikely to kill Heracross. Once again, I flatten Walrein, and better yet, Torterra goes before Scizor to rock slide his last sliver of HP. Tailwind has ended again, but I'm in the best position I could manage. Fern only has a couple Pokemon left, and they're about to walk into some webs. One of those two is Decidueye, while Blake sends out his Weavile, apparently trying to force his way to the first attack with sheer speed. But the Weavile is still not fast enough, as Heracross goes first, lands a Megahorn, and kills the Decidueye. Yes! Florinius Torterra is outsped by the Weavile and targeted by Icicle Crash, but in one of the best examples of a Type Berry I've ever seen, Torterra survives, responds with a superpower, and shatters the Weavile. Fern has one more, that horrible Roserade, while Blake sends his Starmie out again. Megahorn is again not something Roserade is weak to, but as long as it hits, then Fern's done! Then watch this. Starmie goes for Blizzard, which would kill Torterra for sure, but it misses him. He then gives it a Woodhammer of Ages, sacrificing himself. Blake is all by himself now. Next though is the only Pokemon in this fight that can't be affected by Sticky Web, Gyarados. What I didn't expect is that Heracross outspeeds it straight up, but she only gets 2 hits on Rock Blast. She is Waterfall down, surely helped by the defense drop. Ferrothorn assists by paralyzing the Gyarados. Vanillix comes out to easily freeze-dry Gyarados, but I knew this would be a dangerous move. Hail is up now, and that means that Alolan Sandslash with its damn Slush Rush will run right out here. Even with a speed drop, it's still going to go first. This is proven true, as it Iron Heads directly into Vanillux and splinters him. But Ferroseed once again Thunder Waves Blake's Pokemon, effectively removing its Slush Rush. This lets Arcanine come out to easily melt the Sandslash. I thought it was over, but there's one more, Mamoswine. Yet once more, Arcanine blazes the Mammoth with Heat Wave, but though she doesn't kill it, She survives an earthquake to watch Ferrothorn whip down the final Pokemon in this horrible fight. What a miserable battle. I needed all of that luck at the beginning of the fight to let Talonflame survive to use a Tailwind a second time. As such, though I'm excited to have won this, I have a deep, sick feeling in my guts. If I don't beat the final stage of this gauntlet, can I possibly get this luck again? At battle's end, Blake is his typical uncaring fuckhead self, but Fern uncharacteristically loses it. Florinia tells him simply, or I guess complexly, to fix his mistakes, starting with leaving Meteor. When Solaris growls about my continued resistance against him, Fern shittily downplays me again, instead pointing at his sister. He continues to eat Meteor's bullshit, saying that she could have joined him in their crusade. He then calls out her apparent cruelty towards him and says she really has become a robot. She denies this, though less and less sure, as Fern continues ripping into her. She turns away from him as he walks away, then demonstrating his own cruelty and coldness. He says he has no sister, and cares not what Meteor does to her anymore. Fuck you, Fern. To this, Solaris commands Sirius to remove her. Sirius's Seviper strikes her directly. Florinia falls backwards and slumps to the floor. With Florinia gravely injured, I'm all by myself, as Solaris then steps forward. He intends to battle us himself now. No more holding back. This is the time to take on the leader. Julia managed to explode through the ice, bull rushing Blake over the banister and sink, making him lose his cool now. But Julia quickly loses interest in him as she notices Florinia, and runs to her worried. She turns to Sirius and blasts his snake to smithereens with her electrode, sending him reeling. Then, instead of Sirius, an orderly comes forward and assists Solaris. You know what's next. We're here, in the third and final stage of the Fiore Gauntlet, and Cynthia's theme will impale you with anxiety. At the top of the mountain, you must now overcome the leader of Meteor +1, or be thrown off and forced to trudge all the way back up again. And all the while, you must endure the gut-wrenching theme of the most feared champion. Solaris' team begins with something we already saw once, Scissor, while John sends out a Whiscash. With Florinia hurt, we now instead fight Solaris with Julia, but her electrode is in a bad position with that Whiscash. Talonflame starts the fireworks with Tailwind, but is promptly bullet punched and rock slided down. That's not a good way for this to start, but Electrode emerged unscathed after taking a third off of Scissor. Like I said before, Kricketune managed to make it all the way to this fight with a Focus Sash, so it's absolutely time to drop a Sticky Web. The battle will hinge entirely on if we can get it on Solaris' side. Electrode thunderbolts Scissor again, and indeed, the Master of Fury puts up the critical hazard. Scissor pays him back with a U-turn, which is followed by Rock Slide, which ends Kricketune already. Even though we got the web in there, look at this situation already. 2 of my team down, none of theirs. Solaris now deploys an Excadrill, which is a major issue. Whiscash would easily swamp Arcanine, while Excadrill will grind up Vanillux. I'm in agony about which to use here, and it ends up being Vanillux. All I know is that Whiscash will be a supreme pain in the ass to remove any other way, so Vanillux freeze dries it to death after Electrode puts a 40% hole in Excadrill. But then, I am devastated. Vanillux is killed by an Iron Head. Instead of doing a ground move to Electrode, Solaris is focusing me down. This is now where I began to lose hope. Vanillux was my one trump card to Solaris' ace that you already know about. Now it's gone. I decide I have to go for Arcanine now and hope John doesn't send out something shitty to my fire type. He sends a Magnezone. Really? That's great! Better than that! It's a huge swing, as Heat Wave one-shots Magnezone and finishes off Excadrill. But the swing goes back the other way now, as our Tailwind gives out and 2 water types appear. Slowbro from John, and another irritating reprisal from one of his subordinates. Solaris sends out a Gyarados. I know I can't leave Arcanine there, but who is going to go there instead? It will just die, and it's not like Heracross or Meowstic are going to do a great deal to either of these two. In the end, I decide it'll have to be Meowstic. But for some reason, I failed to remember that there's a fucking Electrode next to me who doesn't need Tailwind. It goes first and Thunderbolts the Gyarados and kills it. Meowstic takes a Scald, but lives easily. Next though is the only other Pokemon we knew Solaris carried. The one that hurt Amaria. Tyranitar. Meowstic is in a pretty bad spot here. And rather than Light Screen, which seems like too little help at this moment, I'd rather let Electrode get a free hit against the Slowbro, so she fakes out the Tyranitar. Unfortunately, she is hit once more by Scald, and though it doesn't kill her, the damn weather, now Sandstorm, pushes her down. But now it's time for one of my favorite things, using a fighting move to one-shot a Tyranitar, that being Heracross's Close Combat. Electrode does me so much of a solid and beats the Slowbro for me, and Tyranitar crumples to the Close Combat. Big, huge turn, but still it continues. Next, Solaris sends a Mandibuzz, horrible, and John sends Electros, both of them immune to the webs on the ground. I desperately need Electrode to kill the buzzard for me, and I'll pummel the eel. Very regrettably, Electrode cannot do enough to Mandibuzz, but Heracross does ring out the Electros. I'm elated, then crushed, when Mandibuzz used Foul Play, not a flying move, and Heracross lived, but not with enough HP to survive the Sandstorm, and she is unable to continue. I'm so close, yet it feels so far. Only Arcanine remains, and John is still not done, sending out a Toucanon. This could still work out if Electrode kills something. It would be spectacular if it thunderbolted the Toucan, but alas, it aims at the Mandibuzz and can't kill it. But it paralyzes Mandibuzz, which then loses its turn. Toucanon prepares a Beak Blast as Arcanine unleashes a Heat Wave. It brings down Toucanon by half and removes the buzzard. Beak Blast then fires, but it wasn't going for Arcanine. It hits Electrode and still doesn't kill him. Who's Solaris sending out next? Scissor! Holy shit, this could be another 2-0 turn for me. Heat Wave is selected, but Scissor squeaks a Bullet Punch in to take out Electrode finally. I avenge it by using Heat Wave to burn up both the bird and the mantis. But just then, I realized, this is it. I stare in disbelief as John is out of Pokemon, having had only 5, and Solaris sends out his final Pokemon, the one we've all been waiting for, Garchomp. Since we last saw it, it has only gained 1 level, and Arcanine has a move that can hit it, Outrage. I'm shaking at this moment. The final opponent in this hellish trial, and I may be able to win it all right here. It loses a speed stage, and all that has to happen is that Arcanine can go before the Garchomp. Julia, thank you so much for putting an air balloon on that Magnezone. Outrage was only able to do half, but thanks to air balloon, Garchomp's Earthquake could only kill Arcanine, leaving the final opponent up to Julia and her 5 remaining teammates. After a Flash Cannon almost kills the Garchomp in the same turn, Magnezone powers through a Fire Fang to land one last Signal Beam. Through so much luck at so many turns, with none of my own Pokemon remaining, The gauntlet at Fiore Mansion has been conquered. I could not believe that I won this. I had no expectations after Vanillix went down. I was certain it was over, but Arcanine did so well, with the outrage being the unlikely clincher of yet another major battle, one with way more gravity than the earlier one. To think I got to the third battle and won it on my first try, and that this only took 4 attempts. The icing on the cake? Kricketune never triggered the Focus Sash, so we saved it for another day. Overall, what a relief, and a weight off of my shoulders. Just one weight, and by all measures, not nearly the heaviest one. Now, here's who dealt with the Fiore Mansion fucking bullshit triple battle in my last file, as I named the screenshots. The full heal at the end of the battle masks how bad this was for me. Trust me, this team suffered. Dusclops was absolutely using Trick Room for this fight, but this team is terribly set up for that. Meowstic and Emolga are too fast, though all male Meowstic was doing here was setting up Reflect, something I wish female Meowstic could do naturally. The only Pokemon that loved Trick Room unconditionally on this team was Camerupt, with Vanillix and Blastoise only getting some utility out of it. Remember how I said Blastoise was slow but not very slow? This is what I was referring to. He just doesn't benefit from Trick Room enough. One last thing to mention, and that is, if you were like me, and you felt a pang of disappointment that we fought Solaris in a cluttered up doubles fight like this, all I have to say is, be patient. With the leader of Meteor forced back, and their helicopter destroyed by Julia, our position looks strong. Titania emerges from the other room to further bolster our defense, a defense that Solaris can't help but compliment. He then suggests to Sirius that we should break it ourselves. Sirius understands his meaning, and tells us we could either scatter or die by fire. He unleashes his Chandelure, and then boasts a horrible truth. This will be his second time burning down a house for the Sapphire Bracelets. You killed them. It wasn't Charlotte at all. Sirius murdered the Belrose parents. But Titania's reappearance acts as one final nail in the coffin for Meteor's plan, because it turns out this house is also the Water Gem. She unleashes her Excadrill, hey look, there's another one, and it fissures the house. Meteor's final gambit is extinguished, as Solaris laments their failure. This is when he mutters to himself that, despite how little she abides by his principles, Solaris realizes he will need to send Lyn against us, and Team Meteor retreats. The battle is won, despite the large amount of damage to the house, and Titania checks on Florenia. When Julia asks if she'll be alright, Titania responds with a backhand remark, once again referencing that still unspoken conflict between them. Julia jumps on her, saying it's reasonable for Florenia to be hurt when Titania apparently blew up at her. But before we could go into why this happened, the 4th Onyx School alum awakens. Amaria enters the room and wonders what's going on. Titania blows it off as redecorating, which Amaria seems to appreciate far more than she should. Then she turns to me and asks who I am. When Julia says my name, Amaria says, "Nice to meet you." At this, Titania asks Amaria if she knows her, but Amaria is confused why she'd forget her beloved. Titania then cuts to the chase. What was the last thing that Amaria remembers before waking up? She was about to help Florenia with the Flora taking over Obsidia Ward. Oh. Titania leaves. Julia tells Amaria that what she said was fixed a long time ago, and I met her there. It is at this time that Florenia comes to, and explains it as amnesia brought on by the trauma of her fall. This dampens Amaria considerably, as she tells us she's going back to bed and apologizes. Florenia then says she's also leaving, heading for Calcinon, as that's the best place she can attempt to find Fern. Julia says she's going to stay here to help Amaria, and wishes Florenia luck, to which she gives that same reductive analysis of luck and bids us farewell. With the grass leader gone, Julia says we should check on Titania. Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. Oh, I have control again. Yeah, never doing that again. Head to the healing room and find that Titania isn't there. Climb through the window and jump down some ledges and find her. Titania is upset, of course, saying that Amaria's suicide attempt was bad, but Titania admits that what happened at the falls would have freed her. Now it's all back to square one. She won't allow anything to happen that could cause Amaria to attempt suicide again, but she can't take being here, and flies off with the sapphire bracelets. Relaying this to Julia, she says that Titania probably went to her gym, which is in the desert we rode through at the beginning of the game. Geez, that's a bit far. Julia says the only way we could get there is to go through Reborn City, but there's only one way we'll get there. Fly. In that case, we have another gym leader to defeat. Return to the circus now and head to the staff room. Ame will speak to you like always about Ciel's fight, though she doesn't go much deeper into it than Arclight did, telling us she will probably use dance and sound moves and of course aerial tactics. Then speak to Samson, who gives us a report on Terra. That report is nothing. Our intended opposition walks in as well, as the two banter again that Terra being deleted, despite being better for their brains, would tarnish their circus notoriety. Speaking of that, Anastasia walks in and asks about the same glitch girl, noting that on-site accidents are way down lately. Then she moves on to our battle with Ciel, but presses us that we will still need a battle pass. Oh god damn it, where am I gonna... Oh no, wait, I found it, haha. Anastasia, though seemingly not approving, accepts this, and goes to prepare for our battle. When you're ready to take on the flying gym leader, speak to her. I never thought I'd see the day that I'm okay with a fight on Big Top, but after the hell at Fiore Mansion, the battle against Ciel that only has 6 Pokemon to beat is a breather. But I guess let's wait and see what the reset counter comes out to. Before we take off, here's who I'm preparing to bring Ciel down. Let's start with Meowstic, like we commonly do. Thing is, this is a scenario where I'm not too keen to grind something else suitable for the flying leader, so I'm bringing Meowstic as a neutral pick. She'll put up Light Screen, which will be useful against the sound-based moves for the most part, but against the flying moves it'll be unlikely to be helpful, especially since the only move we're likely to see there is Acrobatics. Speaking of Acrobatics, we have Emolga. There's nothing wrong with using flying against flying like Samson did to us, and that's what Emolga will be doing. With his electric typing, he'll be able to resist it back, though he's frail enough that it may not save him. I'm banking on his speed, and obviously, he can switch to electric moves since those will be super effective. Guess who's back? Yep, it's Talonflame. Same story as Emolga, though all Talonflame will reasonably be doing is using Acrobatics while holding a flying boosting item. Like I said before, Talonflame isn't going to sweep this gym leader, but his Tailwind will permit my other teammates to get in good hits. Some of those good hits will come from Zebstrika. It's been a while since Zeb has entered into a gym with us, but this is the place for him to be. Even though it's highly probable that Ciel's team is fast, Zeb with Tailwind will be insanely quick, and Wild Charge is bound to take down something. You may notice that his EVs are still gross, and I could fix it, but I don't want to spend money on EV berries. There's something we're really close to getting, if I remember right. That's been the entire reason I haven't bought those berries. As such, Zeb will have to endure with suboptimal EVs. Coming up next is Camerupt. This is another pick that is also kinda neutral, but he has Rock Slide, so that's something. Plus, he's moderately bulky, and hopefully Ciel doesn't have some water move randomly, unless she has a third fucking Gyarados this episode. Camerupt could be replaced with something better, but I'm stubborn. I just want to get through this now if I can, and if there's any one Pokemon that will get me there, it's my last one. It's probably the most obvious choice. Vanillux. No doubt. In fact, Ciel's fight from my last playthrough is the one from which Vanillux gained his legendary status in my mind. His script is simple. Blizzard shit. That's all. This is the team taking to the sky tonight. For the record, I feel that Ciel's fight is a bit less oppressive than Samson's, and I feel like I had less anguish against her. But again, that might be because my pain tolerance was just forcibly increased. I'm not sure what's on Ciel's team, save for her ace, but we're going to give it a really good try. Direct your eyes skyward for badge 13. Now that's a bad sign to start with. Ciel leads with Togekiss to Meowstic. Can you guess what it's holding? Yep, leftovers. I already hate this. I go for Light Screen to hopefully minimize the damage it will do, and against Air Slash that's good. The flying type though makes Meowstic flinch on the second slash, but misses the third to allow in a measly Psychic. Meowstic goes down on the fourth slash. I don't want to use Vanillix yet, since I want to make sure his HP stays high, so I send Talonflame for the guaranteed first action. Acrobatics though is just off the kill, but instead of attacking, Togekiss uses Thunder Wave to paralyze Talonflame. Though that sucks, Gale Wings is still on, so Talonflame goes first again, ignoring paralysis to take down Togekiss. Next out is going to be Gliscor. I leave out Talonflame in the hope that it gets to Tailwind with Gale Wings before dying, but luck isn't with me for that one. Paralysis takes my turn, and Gliscor shoots down my flyer. Funny, it was Ciel that had the Gliscor instead of Terra. Well, that ground typing is disgusting, invalidating everything but Vanillux. Of course, he's going to take a huge hit, and it's almost too huge, but the Clutch Master survives on 4 to send the Gliscor spiraling down to the floor. Unfortunately, enough time has already passed that Light Screen has faded. And next is Oricorio. Though there's a 25% chance to guess which one it is without seeing it, I figured that Camerupt is a good choice against it. The one that arrives, which I predicted in my head correctly, was Fire Oricorio. Sweet, now Rock Slide becomes 4 times damage. Unless it fucking misses. Awful. Guess we'll go into Emolga, who uses Discharge and actually manages to get the knockout, helped by 2 turns of Hail. But the Pokemon that's coming out next fills me with terror. Noivern. Oh, holy fuck. Let me tell you something. If there was ever a target for Trick Room, it's that. It's already over. None of this team is faster than Noivern. The only chance is for Talonflame to Tailwind. Well, maybe we'll survive its attacks? Boom. Burst. 210 power. Goodbye first attempt. Okay, well, a lot is wrong with this fight already. Let's try again and see what we can do. Well, it starts even worse when Meowstic flinches after Light Screen, failing to hit the Togekiss at all. I decide Vanillux will have to kill it from full HP. But aggravatingly, Togekiss uses Thunder Wave, and I lose my turn. Next turn, Air Slash takes 20% off me, and I manage to kill the Togekiss with Blizzard and a Hail Chip. Gliscor is next, and I'm already damaged and slower with the only thing that is reliable to beat it. I try vainly to keep Vanillux out there, but he survived with only 4 from full HP, so he was doomed. Talonflame goes out to Gale Wings Acrobatics, but it only does a bit more than half. But when Gliscor does the same move, it outright kills Talonflame. Man, fuck this. Also, Gliscor's Toxic Orb pairs with its Poison Heal, so yeah, that's bad. Emolga comes out and manages to outspeed and defeat Gliscor, but again, just as Light Screen disappears, Noivern is here. Fight's over again. I decide to switch Vanillix's item on the next try to a Cherry Berry to predict a Thunder Wave so he'll kill without taking damage. He then takes first position and we start again. But Togekiss decides, nah, I'll just hit you with Air Slash. What's worse is that Blizzard then slams it, but doesn't kill, even with hail damage. Come on, you're that tanky? Then I get fucked over by another flinch. Yeah, it's probably relevant information to know that the Togekiss has Serene Grace, which means all added effects of its moves happen twice as often. So you know, 60% flinch chance on Air Slash. Did I mention I hate Toga Kisses? I can't let Vanillux faint. I switch to Camerupt, but he takes well over half to Air Slash, so I assume he'll die in the follow-up. Instead, Togekiss uses Roost. Beautiful, and Rock Slide only does a poor amount. Then Togekiss heals again while I miss another Rock Slide. Another Air Slash finishes off Camerupt. This first Pokemon is wrecking me so badly. I decide to go for a big wallop using Zeb's Wild Charge. Zeb then flinches 3 times in a row. It's at this moment, resetting again, that I realize what this is. An RNG trap. That means this fight can probably go way better without requiring any changes to my team. The issue is that the reset count is about to shoot through the roof. Before starting again, Vanillux is given a Never Melt Ice to make sure that Blizzard kills CL's opener. I get pissed again when Vanillux flinches once, but the held item gives him enough extra oomph to blow away the Togekiss in one Blizzard. He's down to pretty much no HP, as Bile Oricorio is about to hit center stage. I put Camerupt in front of it, who beast modes through a helping hand Air Slash, surviving it, avoiding flinch, and killing with Rock Slide. See? All those RNG checks went my way, when any one of them could just not, and I get screwed over. All the RNG could keep falling in my favor, and I could get a good chance to win. But now there's a problem. Gliscor is back, and Vanillux is mangled. I can't send him into Gliscor with no support, but I have the solution. I go into Talonflame and go straight for Tailwind since I know he'll faint in one hit. When Vanillux comes out with the wind at his back, he outspeeds and easily wipes out the double weak Gliscor. But something annoying happens right here, which will feature heavily in the next exchange. My hail has already stopped, which is because Vanillux isn't holding Icy Rock anymore. CL's next Pokemon is Minior, which feels like it shouldn't be so bad, especially with Tailwind. I go into Zeb, and he goes first to Wild Charge the Meteor to the brink of death, but not death. Thank you very fucking much, Focus Sash. That's where the lack of hail burns me. Zeb is wasted with an Earthquake, and Minior is now speedy as fuck. I don't bother trying my luck with actual speed. I just go into Meowstic to fake it out from the sky. But now the Tailwind is gone, and Noivern is showing up again. For fuck's sake, literally nothing has changed. Oh, except that Meowstic at full HP could survive and put up Light Screen. But how's that going to matter if my whole team is already this dead? And so, CL's fight has already taken more attempts than the Fiore Gauntlet. Should I be happy that the Gauntlet was done that fast? Or sad that I can't beat a single fight easier than 3 in a row? Whatever. Next attempt starts with Vanillux taking 1 slash and killing right away, putting us in a better position. Oricorio is crushed the same way. Gliscor is coming out next. This time, though, I can't be throwing away Talonflame so soon. He's going to be required for Noivern, so I use Emolga instead. He's faster than Gliscor and resists acrobatics and is immune to Earthquake. Regrettably, his damage with acrobatics is way worse, as Gliscor still nearly kills him with the same move despite resisting it. I thought I'd be able to bring it to low HP, die, and use Gale Wing's acrobatics to kill, but it decides to roost! In the end though, this actually helps me run out the hail timer, so Talonflame won't take damage anyway. Emolga faints, Talonflame comes out, and finishes off the Gliscor. But now, Minior is coming back, and I have no hail up. Camerupt, though, is low on HP. He won't be able to do anything, but I can send Vanillux out, then sacrifice Camerupt to damage Minior with hail, invalidating the Focus Sash. This is going to let me use Zebstrika to... What? All of a sudden, CL just goes into her ace? That ace is Altaria, and as has been the trend so far, its level is 3 beyond my max. Wild Charge slams it for a good hit, but there's something you need to know. Mega Evolutions are here. That's right. CL gets to christen the game with the first genuine Mega Evolution, Mega Altaria. It's interesting that it becomes weak to Electric, the type in front of it, while losing half of its weakness to Ice. but it was confident in its speed and hyper voice, yet again boosted by fucking Big Top as it blasts Zebstrika to death. Does that joke work? Probably not. Altaria is a problem, as any Mega would be, but whereas I thought Talonflame would have to drop the Tailwind and heroically faint, he survives the Hyper Voice and gets to attack with Acrobatics. Amazingly, it knocks out the Mega Altaria. Now, Minior is coming back out again, and we have a Tailwind with 2 opponents left while Minior can't use Focus Sash. It's time for Vanillux to finish this. No! The Noivern was still faster? You thought the battle was over, didn't you? Because of how I used the game audio directly? Yeah, well, I did too. Then Noivern ripped my optimism to shreds. I loathe Noivern, and I really miss Trick Room now. So here's the thing. Camerupt. Though he's amazing with Trick Room, unless I actually go through with using that, he's not really helping. Yeah, he kills Oricorio, but you know who could also do that? Greninja. And now, finally, he has Surf. I got rid of Smackdown because Greninja is just not a physical attacker, so I could still have the priority move in a fight with Pokemon this fast. What's really good too is that Greninja will be perfect for Gliscor, and his Water Shuriken is actually a great counter to Minior too. Attempt 6 begins badly with 1 flinch, but Vanillux kills Togekiss. This leads into Oricorio, so let's see what Greninja can do. And he outspeeds and one-shots the Oricorio with Surf. Hell yes! Ciel is going to shove the Noivern into the fight now, but that's okay. Now I know what it'll take to defeat it. Talonflame will set up Tailwind for the sole purpose of speeding up Zebstrika in order to miss his Thunder Wave. Come on, RNG! Naturally, Noivern kills all of my team again. Next attempt, Vanillux takes 1 slash and kills Togekiss. Oricorio dies. Talonflame Tailwinds, and this time, Zeb Thunder Waves the Noivern successfully. He dies immediately too, but this finally lets me kill the Noivern with Vanillux. Minior comes out next, and I decide to go into Meowstic while we have the wind to put up a light screen. What I didn't realize again is that Hail already stopped, so it's not going to lose its sturdy. Worse, it goes for Shell Smash, raising its speed as my Tailwind peters out. This makes him easily able to kill Meowstic with Acrobatics, meaning the light screen is useless. There's only one way we'll kill this thing. Water Shuriken. And wouldn't you know it, it fucking fails me. 2 hits, when 3 would kill. I finally kill the Noivern, and RNG ruins the whole fight. Another attempt at the same strategy puts me into a similar position, except that instead of Noivern killing Zeb after Thunder Wave lands, it loses not 1, but 2 turns to paralysis and dies to Zeb instead. Okay, that's cool. What's bad is that the Tailwind is already over, and Gliscor is coming out next. Well, Greninja is definitely the best to fight that. He then proves doubly so how Surf is so much better than Water Shuriken, outspeeding and one-shotting the Gliscor with Surf as well. Wow, what a change in pressure. Gliscor was being a pain in the ass, and Greninja makes him free. But now we have to deal with the Minior again with its damned Focus Sash. So once again, Water Shuriken goes out and 2 hits. It needed 4 or maybe 5 to kill, but it still infuriates me that luck is ruining this fight so much. What's good is that its shield stayed up, meaning it's still slow, but Greninja was instantly defeated. Emolga comes out though and outspeeds to avenge him. This finally brings Ciel to her last, the Mega Altaria again. I'm scared about this though. I have no way to improve speed. The only thing I can hope is that Zeb can outspeed or survive and land Thunder Wave. That's sadly not the case. Neither can Meowstic put up a light screen. Then, in the last moment of the fight, when I thought it was over regardless, I made one mistake. Emolga is faster, but instead of Discharge, which Altaria is now weak to and could paralyze, I go for Acrobatics, which doesn't kill. Vanillix can't possibly be clutch enough for this, and we lose. This is getting to be a serious downer. Ciel has easily become the gym leader with the most resets somehow. I'm now realizing that Vanillix can't be damaged early on. He has to have his HP full to truly be the clutch master. For that reason, I decide to have Zeb go out first against a Togekiss. All he needs to do is beat it, regardless of how much damage he takes. Later on, when he goes up against a Noivern, all he needs to do is land Thunder Wave. We fortunately land the Thunder Wave after dodging a flinch on Air Slash, then beat Togekiss with Discharge. He can survive the Aura Sphere that flies at him, and with a second Discharge, the opener is down. Oricorio is washed up, but the Noivern strategy is bungled with a missed Thunder Wave. Before Tailwind runs out though, Meowstic puts up Light Screen and survives a Boom Burst. She hits the dragon with Psychic, but only does a third. No more Tailwind, but there's a Light Screen. Not that it helps Emolga survive. When Vanillix comes out, Noivern switches to Acrobatics and cuts Vanillix's HP in half before dying to Blizzard. Gliscor arrives and departs in the span of one Surf, and then we have Minior again. And then Water Shuriken fails me again. 3 hits. If it had been 4, it would have died, and Light Screen would last long enough for Vanillix to have shot at Altaria. Instead, Minior bypasses it to finish off another attempt. The 10th attempt sees yet another strange thing happen. We get up to Talonflame Tailwinding, but whereas he's fainted against Boom Burst every time before, he gets a favorable range and lives. What? Okay, here's an Acrobatics. Damn it! It almost killed Noivern, but Talonflame now goes down. With that little health, I think I can save Zeb for something else, and use Greninja's Water Shuriken to probably beat it, but I should have stayed on the original strategy. Ciel Ultra Potions it. Fuck, that was my mistake. Another attempt gone. Attempt 11, Operation Vanillix Blizzard's Noivern is successful yet again, only for Water fucking Shuriken to not get enough hits on the Minior. Tailwind stops after Greninja dies, Minior takes off its outer shell, and Acrobatics destroys the rest of my team again. It's at this point that I lose my patience. This strategy with losing both Talonflame and Zebstrika just to kill one damn Noivern has got to go. I need Talonflame for way too many things. I think. I need something that can actually resist this gym's types, specifically flying and normal. So I think Rock, or Steel. Or how about Rock and Steel? How about Bastiodon? So I ended up eating my words, and some berries. I fixed Bastiodon's EVs to have max HP and defense instead, and I'm ready to Metal Burst the shit out of Noivern, fully expecting that Bastiodon will be triggering Sturdy for it. That will leave Talonflame completely unconcerned with Noivern, and I can use him for Minior and ultimately Altaria when Water Shuriken inevitably flips me the bird again. Bastiodon ends up replacing Meowstic, as the benefit of Light Screen is pretty much dried up, and being neutral is not good enough here. With that change, we then start attempt 12, and it and attempt 13 end as soon as Togekiss makes Zeb flinch 3 times in a row in both fights. I hate you too. The shitty luck extends into attempt 14 too, as Zeb is crit before killing Togekiss, forcing Emolga to finish the job. To Emolga, Ciel wants to send Noivern. Good. Here, you accursed dragon. Take this Metal Burst to the mouth. Oh, that Heat Wave didn't do a lot, but Metal Burst is still alright. Huh, well, I didn't use Sturdy, but 3 Metal Bursts got me the result I needed. Now the Noivern should no longer be an issue. Oricorio remains a non-issue, as Minior is coming out next. And guess what? Water Shuriken still doesn't kill it. Now though, I have Talonflame alive to Tailwind and we can handle this one instead. It first gets an Ultra Potion from Ciel though. That's fine. I hit it with Acrobatics and Talonflame is taken out. Now Vanillix can come in to beat it easily. After this though, Ciel is choosing to use Altaria now. When she sends it in, it triggers Cloud 9 to remove my hail. Now Vanillix has to hit a Blizzard straight up. And he does! Altaria dies, and all that's left is Gliscor. So let me send Greninja out to just... Oh no. He fainted already to the Minior. My tailwind is gone. Wait. Holy shit. Really? I'm really down about this one, wondering what else I have to change. Then I remember something. I still have Never Melt Ice on Vanillux. His hail has been running out at all the worst times, so I put the Icy Rock back on him. Attempt 15. If you recall though, the last 3 attempts all had Togekiss troll me hard, but this time the damn Flying Fairy type goes down without an issue to Zeb. Oricorio loses, Noivern is dealt with by Bastiodon the same way. But this time, the order of the knockouts makes Ciel want to send Gliscor now. In that case, Greninja simply drowns it. And again, here's Minior. Water Shuriken was one hit off again. At this point though, it doesn't matter. Talonflame puts up a Tailwind, harms the Minior, and Vanillux takes care of the rest. Goddamn, finally. That was miserable. An RNG fest that just didn't want to give me a break. I feel like I could have won this fight way earlier had Water Shuriken just cooperated once, but it never did. This was a prime example of what my last file looked like way more often. These hopeless rolls of the dice, trying to force strategies to work rather than changing them to more consistent ones. Ciel's fight demonstrates why I use the reset counter in these videos. It's not just to show how hard a fight is, it's also a tool that tells me, as the number keeps climbing, that something needs to change in my approach. The problem is, as time goes on, sometimes you just can't come up with a solution for the horrible dilemma you're facing. The reset counter will just continue to rise. Now we take a look at the previous file's attempt at Ciel. For some reason, I seem to vaguely remember winning this fight in very few attempts, but you can see that if that's true, then it was the closest fight you'd ever see. Many similar entries. Meowstic, Emolga, Camerupt with Dusclops for the very useful Trick Room, and Blastoise. I know one thing, with Vanille Clutch there, I distinctly remember it came down to her and Altaria, who went first and took me from full HP to that. And Vanillux returned fire and won the fight. I was dumbfounded. And I was hoping that same sort of occurrence would happen today again. But we got a slog instead. For triumphing over the final member of the Agate Ace Triumvirate, we are awarded the Suspension Badge. This elevates our level cap to 80, and much more importantly, the Agate Circus arc comes to a close with the activation of Fly outside of battle. Finally, we get the HM for that ridiculous flying move we've come to know very well, Acrobatics. Backstage, the Ringmaster applauds our performance, but scolds Ciel's sleight of hand. She lets Ciel off this time, as Samson ribs her after Anastasia leaves. Ciel then throws back a line that is so painfully true. It's not like I wanted Ciel to take 15 fucking tries. Samson decides he's not in the mood for more banter, and leaves, which puts Ciel into a melancholy mood herself. It's lonely at the top, she says, but she admits that she did push away people to get there. After mentioning the other 2 circus members, she then reveals that there used to be one more, another performer with a unique act, who looked to Ciel for support that she didn't give. Her cousin. She didn't want them dragging her down, which caused them to eventually leave. She wishes to reach out to them and apologize. She bids us farewell now, wishing us luck in our return to Reborn City. And then when you leave the staff room, our omniscience activates again. Into a large computer room walks Ace. They immediately set to work crafting a message to Solaris, in which they press the leader to employ caution. If Lynn is allowed to continue having whatever she wants, she will destroy them from the inside. Ace writes that this has gone so far as to have Lin threaten Taka. They say that Meteor's agents are turning on him and tells Solaris that the only way to right the ship is to get rid of Lin. Ace signs off with their real name, Nashira. And then... despair may overtake you again. Seeing this distressing scene, well, it's going to be even worse for what you have to endure soon.